Hello and welcome to PsychMedia. Okay, I know, it's been a lot of years now, but I want to talk about Frozen. Specifically, and not to sound all clickbaity here, how Elsa is a lot more powerful than everyone gives her credit for. Right, so there's the ice powers and putting her whole entire country into deep freeze if the mood takes her. But don't forget that Elsa is also a creator. She created life, and not just any life, sentient, conscious life. So let's discuss. Does Olaf possess true consciousness? Moreover, what exactly is consciousness? Spoilers, folks, because to answer that question, we're going to have to dip into a bit of philosophy. Now, psychology originally grew out of philosophy, but has since rubbed elbows with medicine and the hard sciences, so now sometimes finds it a little bit hard to go back to that raw theory that can't be empirically tested. Olaf isn't sentient in that first scene. Elsa anthropomorphizes snow into his form and describes his personality, liking warm hugs, but we don't know Olaf's ultimate origins. The scene doesn't make clear if he's a reoccurring part of Elsa and Anna's play, or if she just made him up on the spot. That night must have been very traumatic for Elsa, and her whole entire childhood changes, deeply affecting her relationship with Anna. She doesn't allow herself to build snowmen again, and the scenes of her frantic attempts at self-containment mean we can be relatively sure that Olaf didn't reappear until after Elsa's flight into the mountains. Abandoning her emotional self-regulation, one of the first things she does is recreate him. So we could view Olaf's resurgence as a sign that Elsa is unwilling to be bound by the guilt of that prior trauma. In fact, she does it almost as an afterthought, just, oh right, it's all out in the open now. I can build a snowman if I want to. The clue that his creation is cathartic may lie in the fact that she's initially unaware that she's bestowed sentience on this pile of snow, even though he's immediately aware of her as his creator. However, he's unaware of her as a person, speculating to Anna on her potential personality. At first, Olaf is talking to himself, meaning he woke alone but with his own agency. In fact, he's more like an amnesiac than a newborn. He has full knowledge of language and conversation, not to mention complex schemata like seasons and seasonal objects. He even estimates Kristoff's reaction to the rocks as an indication of mental illness. When Olaf discusses summer, he states that sometimes he likes to close his eyes and imagine it. But his existence has only spanned a few hours. He's already demonstrating episodic memory. He's aware of himself as a part of his surrounding environment and aware of his interactions with that environment. While Olaf does demonstrate appropriateness of situations, such as being helpful and understanding procedure, he seems to lack an internal monologue and have a limited theory of mind. We could consider Olaf as a small child of about 5 years of age. Elsa seems shocked by her ability to create life, although Olaf's knowledge of his creation seems perfectly normal to him. The creation of the snow giant Marshmallow as a vehicle for Elsa's raw will, protect me, may belie that the consciousness she creates might not be under her conscious control. If we wanted to take it to a really strange place, we could call Marshmallow a manifestation of her id, with Olaf as an innocent and warm superego to Elsa's ego. The id is her primal drive for safety and survival, and the superego is her idealized morality. But then I'm no great fan of psychodynamic theory. Olaf has his own personality and experiences character growth during the film, ultimately showing self-sacrifice, which could be called the highest form of self-awareness. He can eloquently describe complex emotions and understands death, knowing that melting means death for him. Elsa's ability to create sentience seems to be new. It's possible that the concept of Olaf was always a part of Elsa, drawn upon in imagination during her social isolation, making him far older than we realize, and legitimizing his experiences of episodic memory and the passing of time. In our examination of Olaf, he seems to qualify as being self-aware, understanding himself as part of a wider world, with a clear concept of his abilities, limitations, and lifespan. But what does that all mean? Would Olaf have human rights, or is he more like a higher primate or an android? Psychology has several ways to describe consciousness, ranging from the abstract levels of consciousness of psychodynamic theory to emotional self-regulation to my favorite example from cognitive psychology. Consciousness is the experience of what it's like to be a brain. Okay, real talk. How does psychology test for self-awareness? Well, one method is called the mirror or the rouge test. An animal is anesthetized and rouge is placed on their face. When they're placed in front of a mirror, if they touch the rouge on their face and not on the mirror, it shows that they understand that the mirror is a reflection of themselves. Only the great apes, and that includes humans, dolphins, orcas, the Eurasian magpie, and a single Asiatic elephant have passed the rouge test. Humans begin to become cognizant of their own reflections at about 18 months of age. Before that, they just perceive another child in the mirror. Thought is another key to consciousness, an electrochemical process that takes place in the brain. The mind doesn't exist, not really. It's an abstract projection of the brain. We might say that a brain that could produce a mind, in certain circumstances, could be considered conscious. But would that include machines? In the Turing test, artificial intelligence is defined as producing responses indistinguishable from a human when judged by a human interpreter. A sophisticated program could react as a human might, but is it really thinking? Or is it just following its programming? Could it ever go independent of its programming? Intention is important in thought, as it occurs independently in humans, but programs have defined initiations. Critics might say that at base, the neural network is only a biological computer, ascribing consciousness to an organic operating system. Okay, we're starting to fade off into the philosophical again, but some of the concepts we need to consider when thinking about consciousness include sentience, sapience, that is wisdom or judgment, and qualia, perceiving the subjective as a conscious experience. We describe these internal experiences with language. So is language important? Researchers believe that understanding animal language could offer insight into their inner lives. A bat that could describe what it felt like to be a bat could be called conscious, the same as the great apes who have used sign language to describe their emotions to their trainers. What do you think? Does Olaf count as a sentient, conscious being? What do you consider to be the most important indicators of consciousness, and does AI count? Let me know in the comments. I'd like to hear from you. Well, that's been this episode of PsychMedia. Please like and subscribe if you feel moved to do so. And if you want to support me or the show, there's a link to my Patreon in the description box below. Bye now. Thank you to the following patrons, with an especial thank you to Gomer, Nate Watson, and Ed Palnick.